80 months passed. Humans spread across Concord space, like water finding cracks in stone. They were everywhere. Mining colonies on distant moons, trading posts on busy stations, tourist groups visiting alien worlds, scientists studying strange life forms, engineers working on construction projects. The galaxy barely noticed them. Humans were small and quiet. They worked hard. They caused no trouble. They were easy to ignore, but strange things started to happen. The first report came from a Valorith patrol ship called the Crystal Blade. They had received a distress signal from a human mining colony on the edge of Concord space. The colony was under attack by Sketh raiders. The Sketh were not part of the Concord. They lived in the dark spaces between stars. They raided ships and colonies for slaves and meat. They were 8 feet tall with 4 arms and black shells that could stop most weapons. Their limbs ended in edges sharp enough to cut through metal. The Crystal Blade arrived expecting to find dead humans and a Sketh ship loading cargo. Instead, they found something impossible. The Sketh ship was floating dead in space. Its hull had been torn open in multiple places. When the Valorith soldiers boarded the vessel, they found 47 Sketh warriors lying dead throughout the corridors. Some had been shot. Some had been beaten. Some had been killed with their own weapons. On the mining colony below, the humans were cleaning up. 12 of their people had died in the attack. The survivors had injuries, broken bones, burns, cuts, but they were alive, and they were calm. The Valorith captain asked them what had happened. The Sketh came down and started grabbing people, said the colony leader, a big man named Victor Petrov. So we stopped them. You stopped them, the captain repeated. You stopped 47 Sketh raiders. With what weapons? Victor shrugged. Mining tools mostly. Picks, drills. A few of us had hunting rifles. The captain stared at him. Mining tools. Against Sketh warriors in full armor. It made no sense. How is that possible? He asked. Victor looked at him with an expression the captain could not read. We really wanted them to stop, he said simply. The report was filed and classified. The Valorith command dismissed it as an unusual event. The Sketh must have been sick or weakened. There was no other explanation, but more reports followed. On Trading Post Meridian 7, a human merchant named Sarah Chen was cornered by a gang of Crescent enforcers. The Crescents ran protection schemes on many stations. They were reptilian creatures with thick scales and powerful tails. 3 of them surrounded Sarah in a back corridor and demanded payment. Station security received an alert from the corridor's sensors. When they arrived, they found Sarah filling out a complaint form at a nearby terminal. The 3 Crescents were lying on the floor behind her. One was unconscious. The other 2 were groaning in pain. What happened? The security officer asked. They slipped, Sarah said without looking up from her form. All 3 of them? The floor is very smooth. The security officer looked at the floor. It was standard station metal, rough enough for any species to walk on safely. He looked at the Crescents. One of them had a broken arm. Another had lost several teeth. He decided not to ask more questions. On the pleasure world of Vethanar, a human tourist fell from a damaged observation platform. The platform was 40 meters above a stone courtyard. The alien doctors who reached her expected to find a body. Instead, they found a woman with 2 broken legs, cursing loudly and trying to stand up. Stay down, the lead doctor ordered. Your injuries are severe. You need immediate medical care. I've had worse, the woman said. Her name was Maria Santos, and she was a retired construction worker from Brazil. Can someone get my bag? I dropped it on the way down. The doctors were confused. A 40-meter fall should have killed any soft-bodied species. The impact should have destroyed her internal organs. At minimum, she should have been unconscious from shock. But Maria was awake and alert and mostly annoyed. about her bag. They took her to a medical facility and examined her. Her legs were badly broken. She had cracked ribs. Her spine was bruised. But she was alive. She was conscious. And within one local year, she was walking again. The doctors wrote papers about her case. They could not explain how she had survived. Across the Concorde, military analysts began collecting these reports. They built files on human incidents. Falls that should have been fatal. Fights that should have been one-sided. Injuries that should have been permanent. The numbers did not make sense. A prey species should not survive these situations. A prey species should die when 40 Sketh warriors attacked with molecular-edged weapons. A prey species should break when facing down armed gangs. A prey species should not walk away from 40-meter falls. Something was wrong with the classification. Hi. Marshal Keth Voren reviewed the reports personally. He studied the data for 3 days. Then he closed the files and issued a statement. Luck, he declared. Statistical anomalies. The galaxy is vast and strange things happen. There is nothing special about humans. His officers accepted this explanation. It was easier than the alternative. But in the dark spaces beyond Concorde borders, others were watching. The hegemony of the eternal dark had spies everywhere. They collected the same reports. They analyzed the same data, and they reached a different conclusion. The hegemony was a coalition of predator species. They believed that the strong should rule and the weak should serve. For 5,000 years, they had watched the Concorde grow fat and peaceful. They had been waiting for the right moment to strike. Now they studied these strange new creatures called humans. They watched the footage from the mining colony. They read the medical reports from Vethanar. They saw a species that had been called prey, but did not act like prey. The hegemony's intelligence masters sent their analysis to the Supreme Overlord. The humans are hiding something, they wrote. We do not know what, but they are not what they appear to be. The Supreme Overlord read the report and made a decision. The Concorde was weak. The time to attack was now, and these mysterious humans would be dealt with first. If they had secrets, the hegemony would tear those secrets out of their soft bodies. If they were truly dangerous, it was better to destroy them before they grew stronger. The war fleets began to gather in the darkness between stars. And on Earth, sensors detected the first distant movements. Something was coming. The waiting was almost over. The Galactic Concorde had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. 847 different species lived together under its laws. They traded with each other. They shared technology. They kept peace across 1,000,000 worlds. In all that time, they thought they had seen everything the universe had to offer. They were wrong. The human ship appeared near Station Velethos Prime on a quiet day. It was small and ugly compared to Concorde vessels. The design was rough. The metal was thick and heavy. The engines burned dirty fuel that left trails of light behind them. The station sensors picked up the ship immediately. Officers gathered around their screens and stared at the strange vessel. They had never seen anything like it before. Where did it come from? Asked the station commander, a tall being made of living crystal named Keth Voren. Unknown region, said his officer. Beyond the outer rim. A place called Sol. Keth Voren made a sound like glass scraping against stone. It was how his species laughed. Sol? What kind of name is that? The ship requested permission to dock. The Concorde allowed it. They were curious about these new creatures. When the airlock opened and the humans walked out, every alien on the station stopped to look. The humans were soft. They had no shells, no scales, no armor of any kind. Their skin was thin and smooth. They walked on 2 legs that bent the wrong way. Their eyes were small and sat too close together on their flat faces. They wore clothes made of plant fiber because their bodies could not handle temperature changes. Ambassador Chen Wei led the human group. She was a small woman with black hair and dark eyes. She smiled at everyone she met. She bowed. She spoke politely. She did everything right according to Concord customs. But behind her smile, she was watching, learning, remembering. The Galactic Assembly met 3 days later to discuss humanity's request to join the Concord. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the great chamber. It was the largest meeting hall in known space, built inside a hollowed asteroid that had been polished until it shone like a mirror. Chen Wei stood at the center of the chamber, alone. Above her, around her, thousands of alien eyes looked down. Some glowed in the dark. Some had no pupils at all. Some were not really eyes, but heat sensors or magnetic receptors. She presented Earth's case calmly. Humanity wanted peace. Humanity wanted trade. Humanity wanted to learn from the great civilizations of the galaxy. When she finished, the Valorith High Marshal rose to speak. Kethvorn was 12 feet tall. His body was made of purple crystal that rang like a bell when he moved. He was the commander of the Concord's military forces, and his word carried great weight. "We have studied these humans," he said. His voice echoed through the chamber. "We have analyzed their biology. We have reviewed their history. And we have reached a conclusion." He paused. The chamber was silent. "They are prey animals." Laughter erupted across the assembly. Clicks and whistles and rumbles filled the air. Chen Wei stood still, her face showing nothing. Kethvorn continued. "Their bodies are fragile. A fall of 10 meters can kill them. They cannot survive in vacuum for more than a minute. They require constant water intake. They must sleep for 8 hours out of every 24, or their minds begin to fail. They have no natural weapons, no claws, no venom, no electrical discharge, nothing. More laughter. Their homeworld is a death trap," the High Marshal went on. 70% of its surface is covered in poisoned water. The land is filled with predators, diseases, and natural disasters. The fact that humans survived at all is remarkable. But survival does not make them strong. It has made them careful, timid. They are runners, not fighters. Chen Wei listened to every word. Her smile never changed. "Therefore," Kethvorn announced, "the Valorith recommend that humanity be granted provisional membership in the Concord. They will be classified as a protected species. They will not be allowed to build military vessels beyond basic system patrol craft. A Valorith advisory team will be assigned to their homeworld to guide their development." The assembly voted. The motion passed with overwhelming support. Humanity was now part of the Galactic Concord, but as children, not equals. After the vote, a Valorith officer approached Chen Wei. He was young by his species standards, only 800 years old. His crystal was pale blue, almost white. "You do not seem upset," he observed. Chen Wei looked up at him. "Should I be? We just called your species weak and helpless. We laughed at you in front of the entire galaxy." "Yes," she said. "You did. And that does not bother you?" Chen Wei was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "On Earth, there is an animal called a possum. When a predator threatens it, the possum falls down and pretends to be dead. It lies still. It does not fight. It does not run. It just waits." The Valorith officer tilted his head. "That sounds like a very weak creature." "Perhaps," Chen Wei said. "But the possum has survived for 70 million years. Many of the predators that hunted it are now extinct." She bowed politely and walked away, leaving the young officer confused. That night, Chen Wei sent a coded message to Earth. It contained everything she had learned about Concord technology, military positions, and political structures. It also contained her recommendation. "They see us as harmless," she wrote. "Let them continue to believe this. Learn everything. Build in secret. And wait." On Earth, the governments of the world read her message. They understood what she was saying. Humanity had spent its entire history fighting itself. War after war after war. They had developed weapons that could crack the planet in half. They had created poisons that could kill every living thing on the surface. They had split the atom and built bombs from starfire. And they had done all of this while trapped on one small world. Now they had access to the stars. They had alien technology to study. They had time to prepare. The galaxy thought humans were prey. The galaxy thought humans were weak. The galaxy laughed at the soft little creatures from the death world called Earth. Humanity smiled back and said nothing. But deep underground, in bunkers that had once been built to survive nuclear war, engineers and scientists began their work. They took apart Concord technology piece by piece. They learned how it worked. They made it better. And they waited for the day when the galaxy would stop laughing. The hegemony attacked without warning. 17 star systems fell in the first month. The Valorith fleet, proud and ancient, was not ready for this kind of war. They had kept peace for thousands of years. They had forgotten what real fighting looked like. The hegemony had not forgotten. Their ships came in waves. Thousands of vessels poured out of the dark spaces between stars. They did not care about losses. They did not negotiate. They did not accept surrender. They burned worlds and harvested populations. This was not war. This was extermination. The Concorde scrambled to respond. Emergency messages flew between governments. Fleets were mobilized. Defense lines were drawn. But the hegemony moved faster. System after system went dark. On Earth, the Valorith advisory team received new orders. They were being recalled. All Concorde military assets were needed at the front lines. Humanity would have to defend itself. The advisory team's commander delivered the news to Earth's leadership personally. He stood in the United Nations Assembly Hall, surrounded by human representatives from every nation. "We are sorry," he said. His crystal form flickered with colors that humans had learned meant shame. "We cannot protect you. The hegemony's 7th consumption fleet is moving toward your system. 30 dreadnoughts, 400 support ships. You have perhaps 3 weeks before they arrive." The human leaders listened in silence. "We recommend evacuation," the commander continued. "Load as many of your people as possible onto transport ships. Flee to Concorde space. We will find room for refugees." A man stood up from the human delegation. He was old, with white hair and a face lined by many years. His name was Admiral James Okonkwo, and he commanded Earth's defense forces. "Thank you for the warning," he said politely. "We will handle it from here." The Valorith commander blinked. "You will handle it? With what? You have no military fleet. Your technology is primitive. You cannot fight 30 dreadnoughts." Admiral Okonkwo smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "We have been building," he said simply, "in secret, for 18 months. We are not as helpless as you believe." The advisory team left Earth the next day. As their ship rose through the atmosphere, they looked down at the blue and green world below. They expected it to be burning within a month. They were wrong. The hegemony's 7th consumption fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Jupiter. Fleet Commander Vrexiton stood on his bridge, watching the tactical display. He was a massive creature, 12 feet of muscle and armored scales. He had commanded hundreds of successful harvests. This one would be easy. "Scan the system," he ordered. "Find their population centers. We begin with the largest cities." His sensors swept across the solar system. Earth was there, small and blue, filled with billions of soft creatures. Easy prey. Then the sensors found something else. "Commander," his officer said, voice uncertain. "There are ships ahead." "Human ships." Rex laughed. "How many? A dozen? 2 dozen?" 347, Commander." The laughter stopped. "That is impossible. They had no fleet. Our intelligence confirmed this. The ships are real, Commander. They are moving to intercept." On the tactical display, Rex Otten watched the human fleet spread out. The ships were ugly things, built of thick metal and sharp angles. They looked nothing like Concorde vessels. They looked like weapons given form. He opened the communication channel. "Human vessels. This is Fleet Commander Rex Otten of the Hegemony. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Resist, and we will make your species suffer for 1,000 years." The response came immediately. A human face appeared on his screen. Dark skin, white hair, calm eyes. "Admiral Okonkwo. Hegemony Fleet, this is Admiral James Okonkwo of the Sol System Defense Force. You have entered human space without permission. Leave now or be destroyed." Rex Otten stared at the tiny creature threatening him. Then he began to laugh again. His entire bridge crew joined him. The sound echoed through the ship. "Destroy them," Rex Otten ordered when the laughter died. "All ships forward. Show these animals what happens to prey that forgets its place." The battle began. At first, it seemed like the Hegemony would win easily. Their dreadnoughts were massive. Their weapons were powerful. Their shields could stop almost any attack. Then the human ships did something unexpected. Instead of staying at range and firing, they charged directly into the Hegemony formation. They wove between the massive dreadnoughts. They got close. Too close for the big guns to track. And then the boarding pods launched. Rex Otten watched in disbelief as thousands of small objects shot from the human ships. They crossed the void in seconds and slammed into Hegemony hulls. They burned through armor. They tore open airlocks. "They are boarding us," his officer reported. "They are sending soldiers onto our ships." "That is insane," Rex Otten said. "No species boards enemy vessels. The losses would be catastrophic." But the humans were doing it anyway. All across the fleet, alarms began to sound. Reports flooded in from every ship. Human soldiers were inside. They were fighting through corridors. They were killing everything in their path. Rex Otten ordered his own ship sealed. He sent his best warriors to guard the vital sections. These were Hegemony shock troops, creatures bred for war. 7 feet of muscle and claws and rage. The humans cut through them like they were nothing. Rex Otten watched the internal cameras in horror. The human soldiers moved in teams. They covered each other. They communicated without speaking. When one fell, the others stepped over the body and kept advancing. A Hegemony warrior would crush a human soldier against a wall, and a human would keep fighting with broken bones. A human would be shot, bleeding badly, and would still raise their weapon and fire back. They did not scream. They did not panic. They did not stop. One camera showed a human soldier facing 3 Hegemony warriors alone. The soldier was small, female, and her armor was damaged. She should have run. She should have surrendered. Instead, she smiled. She killed all 3 of them with a knife. Rex Otten felt something he had not felt in 200 years of warfare. He felt fear. "What are these things?" he whispered. His ship shuddered. The humans had reached the engine room. The lights flickered and died. Emergency power came on, painting everything in red. In the darkness, Rex Otten heard human boots on metal floors. Coming closer. Always closer. He opened a final transmission to the rest of the fleet. "They do not stop," he said. His voice was shaking. They do not retreat. They do not fear death. What are these things? What are these humans? The transmission ended in static. 11 hours after the battle began, it was over. The 7th Consumption Fleet was destroyed. 30 dreadnoughts and 400 support ships reduced to drifting wreckage and captured hulls. Earth had taken losses. Many soldiers had died. Many ships were damaged. But they had won. Admiral Okonkwo stood on his bridge, looking at the field of debris that had been an invasion fleet. "Send a message to the Concorde," he ordered. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them what humans can do when we stop pretending." He paused. "And tell them we are coming to help." The galaxy was about to learn the truth about Earth. The joke was over. Now the real war could begin. The transmission spread across the galaxy like fire. Every species in the Concorde received the battle footage from the Sol system. They watched in silence as human ships charged into the hegemony fleet. They watched as boarding pods tore through armored hulls. They watched as human soldiers fought, hand to hand against creatures twice their size. And they watched as the mighty 7th Consumption Fleet died in the great halls of the Valorith homeworld. High Marshal Keth Voren called an emergency council. Every senior officer was present. Every military analyst. Every intelligence expert. They gathered around a massive display table and watched the footage again and again. "This is impossible," said one officer. "Humans cannot do this. They are soft. They are fragile. Our own reports say so." "Our reports were wrong," Keth Voren said quietly. Master Analyst Verkith stepped forward. He was old, even by Valorith standards. His crystal had grown cloudy with age. But his mind was still sharp. "I have studied the footage in detail," he said. "I have consulted with biologists, psychologists, and weapons experts. I believe I understand what we are seeing." He touched the display, and an image of Earth appeared. "We made a mistake," Verkis said. "We looked at human bodies and saw weakness. Soft skin, no natural armor, small size. We concluded they were prey animals who had survived through luck and caution." He zoomed in on the planet's surface, showing mountains, deserts, oceans, and forests. But we did not look at their world. Earth is not a safe place. It is a death world. The atmosphere carries diseases that can kill in days. The water is full of predators. The land has animals that hunt in packs, creatures with venom that stops hearts, insects that drink blood and spread plagues. Images flashed across the display. Sharks, lions, wolves, mosquitoes, snakes, jellyfish. "Humans evolved on this world," Verkith continued. "They did not survive by hiding. They survived by fighting. They are persistence predators. They chase their prey until it drops dead from exhaustion. They can run for hours without stopping. They can lose limbs and keep living. They can function through levels of pain that would kill any other species." He switched to footage from the battle. A human soldier with a hole in her stomach, still firing her weapon. A human marine with both legs broken, pulling himself forward with his arms to reach the enemy. "They do not stop," Verkis said. "Their bodies produce chemicals that block pain and fear. They call it adrenaline. It lets them push past every limit. A cornered human is not a trapped animal. A cornered human is the most dangerous thing in the room." The council watched in silence. "But there is something worse," Verkith added. "Something we did not expect." He played a different clip. Human soldiers during a firefight. They were outnumbered and outgunned. They should have been terrified. They were laughing. "Look at their faces," Verkith said. "They are not fighting for survival. They are enjoying this. Humans have a relationship with violence that no other species shares. They do not fear battle. They seek it. They train for it. They dream about it." He turned to face the council directly. On Earth, they have a concept called war. Not defense. Not territorial dispute. War. They have spent their entire history fighting each other. They develop weapons that can crack their own planet. They poisoned their own air. They burned their own cities. And they did this to themselves, all trapped on one small world. Verkith let that sink in. Now they have starships. Now they have alien technology to copy and improve. Now they have enemies other than each other. He paused. We should be grateful they chose to be friendly first. The council was quiet for a long moment. Then High Marshal Kethvorn spoke. What do we do now? Before anyone could answer, a message arrived. Priority transmission from Earth. Ambassador Chen Wei was requesting permission to address the Concord Assembly. The assembly gathered 3 days later. Representatives from every member species filled the great chamber. But this time, the mood was different. There was no laughter, no whispered jokes. Only silence and fear. Ambassador Chen Wei walked to the center of the floor. She was alone, as before. But now, everyone watched her differently. They saw the softness of her skin and wondered what violence it hid. 18 months ago, she began, I stood in this chamber and listened while you called my species prey. You laughed at our bodies. You mocked our biology. You treated us as children who needed protection. Her voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. The hegemony believed you. They thought we would be easy to harvest. They sent 30 dreadnoughts to enslave our world. She smiled, and several delegates flinched. They were wrong. She let the silence stretch. The hegemony is not finished. They will not accept this defeat. They will return with everything they have. Not just for Earth, for all of you. They have tasted Concord weakness, and they are hungry for more. Chen Wei clasped her hands behind her back. Earth is prepared to fight. We have ships. We have soldiers. We have spent our entire history killing each other. Now we have a better enemy. She looked around the chamber, meeting eyes with representatives from dozens of species. But we cannot win alone. The hegemony is vast. Their numbers are endless. This war will need more than human fury. It will need valorous strength. Crethian technology. Veterinary logistics. Everyone. She stepped forward. We came to you 18 months ago asking for membership. You gave us protected status, like pets. Now we ask again. Not as pets. As partners. As equals. Her eyes found High Marshal Kethvorn in the lull. Crowd. You have the finest military in the Concord. Disciplined. Powerful. Ancient. But you have forgotten how to fight an enemy who does not fear death. We can teach you. She turned to the Crethian delegation. Your technology is centuries ahead of ours. But you build for safety and stability. We build for war. Together, we can create weapons the hegemony cannot imagine. She faced the full assembly. The choice is yours. Stand with us, and we will show you how humans make war. Stand against us, or stand aside, and the hegemony will harvest you one by one. High Marshal Kethvorn rose slowly. His crystal form caught the light and scattered it in all directions. You ask us to trust you, he said. But you have been lying to us for 18 months, hiding your strength, pretending to be weak. Chen Wei nodded. Yes, we did. Why should we trust you now? Because the hegemony is coming, Chen Wei said simply. And when they arrive, you will want us standing beside you, not against you. The vote took 3 hours. There were arguments, debates, accusations, but in the end, the result was clear. Humanity was no longer a protected species. Humanity was an ally. And across the galaxy. The hegemony watched and began to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked Earth expecting easy prey. Instead, they had woken something ancient and hungry, The humans were coming, and they were bringing the entire Concord with them. The supreme overlord of the hegemony called his war council together. "How many ships do we have?" he asked. 3,000 dreadnoughts, 400,000 support vessels, 40 billion soldiers. The supreme overlord nodded. "Gather them all. Every ship. Every warrior. We will crush these humans and burn their world to ash." He did not know that humans had a saying, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." He was about to learn what that meant. The Second Hegemony Offensive was the largest military operation in the history of the galaxy. 3,000 dreadnoughts, 400,000 support ships, 40 billion soldiers from 17 different predator species. They gathered at the edge of Concord space like a storm waiting to break. Supreme Overlord Cax the Wroth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Hunger. He was the largest of his kind, 15 feet of armored scales and muscle. He had conquered 40 worlds personally. He had bathed in the blood of 100 species. He would add humans to that list. "Report," he commanded. "All fleets in position, Supreme Overlord." "We await your order." Cax the Wroth looked at the tactical display. The Concord fleet was gathering in the Volanthos Nebula. A defensive position, predictable, weak. "They think the nebula will protect them," he said. "They think the dust clouds will hide their ships. They are wrong." He raised his massive arm. "All ships forward. Leave nothing alive." The hegemony fleet surged into the nebula like a wave of death. On the other side of the dust clouds, Admiral James Okonkwo watched them come. He stood on the bridge of the USN's Perseverance, the new flagship of the Sol System Defense Force. Around him, the combined fleet of the Concord waited in formation. 1,200 Valorith crystal ships, 800 Krethian cruisers, 500 veterinary carriers, and at the center, 400 human warships, ugly and angular, and built for one purpose: war. "The hegemony is entering the nebula," his tactical officer reported. "They are spreading out to search for us." Okonkwo nodded. "Good, let them spread." Beside him, High Marshal Kethvorin shifted uneasily. The Valorith commander had accepted human tactical leadership, but he was not comfortable with it. "They outnumber us 3-1, Kethvorin said. "Perhaps we should fall back to a stronger position." Okonkwo shook his head. "No, we fight here, today. But our numbers do not win wars," Okonkwo said. "We'll win wars. The side that breaks first loses. The hegemony has never lost. They expect to win. They believe they will win." He smiled. "We are going to teach them otherwise." Kethvorin studied the human admiral. "You sound confident." "I am." "Do you know why humans are dangerous, High Marshal? It is not our bodies. It is not our weapons. It is our minds. We are very, very good at breaking the enemy's spirit." He turned to his communications officer. "Signal all ships. Execute Plan Wolfpack." The trap closed. The hegemony fleet had spread out to search the nebula. That was their first mistake. When the Concord ships attacked, they did not attack the center. They attacked the edges. They cut off escape routes. They isolated groups of ships. And then the human boarding parties began. Cax the Wroth received reports from across his fleet. Ships were being boarded. Commanders were dying. Entire crews were being slaughtered by small teams of human soldiers who moved like ghosts through the corridors. "Concentrate the fleet," he ordered. "Pull back to defensive formation." But his ships could not pull back. The Concord fleet was everywhere, harrying, attacking, retreating, attacking again. They would not stand still and fight. They would not give the hegemony a clear target. It was not war as Cax the Wroth understood it. It was a hunt, and the hegemony was the prey. Hour after hour, the battle continued. The hegemony lost ships not in great fleet actions, but piece by piece. A dreadnought surrounded and boarded. A supply convoy caught in crossfire. A command ship cut off from its escorts. By the second day, the hegemony had lost 500 ships. By the third day, that number had doubled. But worse than the losses was the fear. Hegemony soldiers had never known fear before. They were predators. They were conquerors. They ate the weak and ruled the strong. Now they were afraid to sleep. Human soldiers appeared without warning. They came through air vents and maintenance tunnels. They attacked at night when crews were tired. They left messages written in blood on the walls of captured ships. "We are coming." On board the Eternal Hunger, Cax the Roth's own crew began to whisper. They had heard stories. A human soldier who killed 30 warriors with a broken arm. A human pilot who flew her damaged ship into a hegemony cruiser rather than surrender. Humans who laughed while they died. "They are demons," the soldiers whispered. "They are monsters." On the third day, Cax the Roth made a decision. He would end this personally. He would find the human commander and kill him. That would break their spirit. He opened a communication channel to the Perseverance. "Human commander," he growled. "I am Supreme Overlord Cax the Roth. I challenge you to single combat. Face me, and if you win, my fleet will withdraw. Refuse, and I will continue until every last one of you is dead." Silence for a moment. Then Admiral Okonkwo's face appeared on the screen. "I accept," he said simply. The two flagships met in a clear space between the dust clouds. Airlocks connected. Cax the Roth walked onto the human ship alone, as tradition demanded. Admiral Okonkwo was waiting for him. The Supreme Overlord looked down at the tiny human. Okonkwo was old. His hair was white. His body was thin beneath his uniform. Cax the Roth could break him with one hand. "You are brave," Cax the Roth admitted. "Foolish, but brave. I will kill you quickly as a sign of respect." Okonkwo smiled. "Before we begin, I want to ask you something. Speak. Do you know why you are losing?" Cax the Roth snarled. "We are not losing. We have greater numbers, greater strength, and yet your soldiers are afraid to close their eyes. Your crews jump at shadows. Your commanders have stopped sleeping." Okonkwo stepped closer. "You have been predators your entire history. You have never been hunted before. You do not know how to handle it." He looked up at the massive creature before him without fear. "Humans have been hunted since we climbed down from the trees. We were hunted by lions and wolves and bears. We were hunted by disease and famine and cold. Everything on our world tried to kill us. And do you know what we did? What? We became the thing that everything else was afraid of." Cax the Roth roared and struck. The fight lasted 12 seconds. Okonkwo was old and slow. Cax the Roth was massive and powerful. But the human did not try to match strength with strength. He moved sideways. He let the blows pass him by. He waited. And when Cax the Roth overextended, reaching too far, Okonkwo stepped inside his guard and put a knife through his throat. The Supreme Overlord fell. Okonkwo stood over his body, breathing hard. He touched his ear, activating his communicator. "It is done," he said. "Signal the hegemony fleet. Their leader is dead. They can surrender or die." Across the battlefield, the hegemony heard the news. Their Supreme Overlord, the greatest warrior of their generation, killed by an old human with a knife. Their will broke. Ships began to surrender. Others fled into deep space. The Great Hegemony Offensive collapsed in hours. Within a month, their entire civilization had fallen into civil war. The Predator Coalition that had threatened the galaxy for 5,000 years tore itself apart. And in the halls of the Galactic Concord, representatives gathered to witness something new. The humans had won. High Marshal Kethvorn stood before the assembly. His crystal form shone with colors that meant respect. Deep respect. "We were wrong," he said. "We looked at humanity and saw prey. We saw soft bodies and short lives. We did not see what lay beneath." He turned to Ambassador Chen Wei, who stood in the center of the chamber. "You are not prey. You never were. You are the deadliest species this galaxy has ever seen. And you chose to be our friends." Chen Wei smiled. "We choose our friends carefully. Why? Why hide your strength? Why let us mock you?" Chen Wei was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Because strength without wisdom is just destruction. We spent thousands of years destroying ourselves. We learned that lesson the hard way. When we reached the stars, we wanted to try something different." She looked around the chamber. "We wanted to be welcomed, not feared. We wanted to trade, not conquer. We wanted friends, not subjects." She paused. "But when friends are threatened, humans do not run. Humans fight." From that day forward, no one in the galaxy ever laughed at humanity again. They had seen what humans could do. They had watched human soldiers board enemy ships with smiles on their faces. They had seen human commanders fight impossible odds and win through sheer stubbornness. They had learned that the soft little creatures from Earth will not prey at all. They were wolves. And the wolves had found their pack.